podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for The Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Here we go on a Friday, live in Los Angeles. It's The Herd. You can eat outdoors here now. It's something special. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, and FS1. Yes, it was chilly last night eating outdoors with my wife and friends, but it was eating outdoors nonetheless. It's just a new world. It's a new world here.
Chicken parm?
Darn right. A little linguine and chicken parm and an espresso. Joy Taylor is joining me. I'll have my Super Bowl pick in 1 hour from now. We got great people on the show today. Carson Palmer, Malcolm Jenkins, Joe Thomas, and Joy, of course. So I'm gonna start the show, Joy, today with a respect. Guys are funny about this. Maybe it's all that testosterone, but respect's a big deal for guys. I don't know if it is for women. Is it for women?
Oh, yes, very. Okay. At least for me.
All right. Well, you're very competitive.
Yes.
You're athletic and you're very professionally driven. Not to say you have some guy in you, but I'm saying is...
No, respect is a big thing, though.
Yeah.
It's very important.
For guys, it's crazy. You can be rich, you can own the world, and then you still have this little chip on your shoulder from like 20 years ago because you didn't get drafted where you should be drafted. Respect never goes away. If you got disrespected by somebody, it doesn't matter how big your bank account is, what your trophy case looks like, it's with you forever. There was a moment in that documentary, Tom versus Time. Remember that? I mean, it wasn't the MJ doc, but it was pretty darn good. And the moment in the doc that stuck with me more than any singular moment was not about Tom Brady. It was about Giselle, his wife. She's in the car, and they're interviewing her, and Tom allowed this to make it into the documentary because Tom had final editing approval, right? And Giselle says, he just wants to feel like respected. He just wants to feel appreciated. That does not go away. This is about Belichick for Brady. Let's think about Monday. If Mahomes wins, it's about so many things. It's about him becoming a top 10 quarterback of all time. It's about him going MVP, Super Bowl in 3 years. It's the risky business for Tom Cruise moment for Mahomes. It's, Tom Cruise is great. Then he did risky business in the underwear, and it's like, he's an icon. Mahomes goes from great to all-timer, top 5. Elway, Marino, Montana, Brady, Manning, Mahomes. For Mahomes, this game is legacy-defining and brand-altering and discussion-changing. We'll never talk about quarterbacks the same. For Tom Brady, he wins. You know what we say Monday? He's stuck at the Belichick. He really stuck at the Belichick. A Mahomes win does not discount anybody else's legacy. If Brady wins, even I'll think a little less of Bill. One team is playing for joy. One player is playing for revenge. When Giselle is allowed in that, and by the way, that's what you see. When the wife's saying that to the camera, what are the discussions like at home between Tom and Giselle? That was the filtered version without the blankety blank and blankety blank and blank that guy and blank this system. Mahomes is still trying to figure out where he's going to land in the big quarterback discussion. Tom's there. He's at the top. He's not going to go on top of the top goat. 25 years from now, Brady's 6 will still be discussed more than Brady's 1 in Tampa. This one, though, at the bar with your buddies will be the one where, man, God, he really stuck it to New England. To me, if Mahomes if he wins, it's about a lot of people winning. It elevates Andy Reid's legacy, the Hunt family, Roger Goodell, has a new face of the league and a dynasty. It's about Mahomes. It's about Travis Kelce. It's about this proud city. The next dynasty is smack dab in the middle of America. There's a lot of winners. If the Buccaneers win, it's about Tommy getting over on Belichick. There are so many topics if the Chiefs win. It's a much easier show for me. I could talk about Andy Reid for segments and Mahomes for segments and a dynasties all time. If Brady wins, I can tell you what the first segment is. Brady here, Belichick under him, system, give me a break. One's planned for joy, one's planned for revenge. But when I think of all the images of Tom, and I don't think this means there's anything less. I remember Deflategate, we found text, he was talking about Peyton Manning. It's how we operate as guys. We hold grudges, high school. We have bad dreams, nightmares. We age more quickly. We die sooner. We hold this stuff in. We don't communicate like women. Women go to the bathroom together to talk. Guys go to the bathroom. We don't even look at each other. Women have a race for the cure. We don't have a race for the prostate. Just who we are. We hold grudges. We're pettier. It's that respect thing. And when Giselle said he just wants to feel appreciated, what were the discussions at home like? Don't kid yourself. Bill's not rooting for Tom, and Tom is looking to get over on Bill. And I'm here for all of it. All right, where I saw the Hunt family is a great NFL family. And he was talking about Mahomes has a little Jordan feel to him. And he was saying, it's amazing. Patrick had so much success early in his career. As great as Michael was, it took a few years before he won his first championship. He goes, Patrick is so far ahead of where we thought he would be. The difference, of course, is that not only was Michael Jordan great, but Rodman was the best rebounder in the game. Phil Jackson was the best coach in the game. Tony Kukoc was the best European in the game. Steve Kerr was the best shooter in the game. Scottie Pippen was the best Robin to a Batman in the game. It was easy to pick Michael Jordan. He was surrounded by so much. But let's think about this Kansas City team Sunday. Their defense, total defense, they're ranked 16th, right in the middle of the league. Their run game is ranked 16th, right in the middle of the league. Sacks, they're 19th. Offensive line this morning is the second best one in that game Sunday. If you are picking Kansas City, you're just picking the early Michael Jordan. You're picking Michael to just beat the Celtics, the Pistons, the Lakers. Tampa's got the better defensive line this morning. That's not arguable. Tampa's got the better offensive line this morning due to injuries. Tampa's got the better linebackers. Tampa's at home. Tampa currently has the better run game. They have the better pass rush. All of it, Tampa. Better roster, deeper roster. If you like Kansas City, then you are betting on Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And I get it. Because a year ago, San Francisco, in my opinion, had the better roster. And I liked Garoppolo, and I loved Shanahan. And they still couldn't win. Because Kansas City scored 21 points in 5 minutes and 5 seconds. The most complete roster doesn't win Super Bowls. In fact, let's look at this year. If you ask me the most complete roster in the NFL, I would say the New Orleans Saints. Hell, they've got a third quarterback I like a little bit. That's the best roster in the league. Oh, they've been gone for weeks. I actually think the second best roster in the NFL, even with Jared Goff, was the Rams. They'll just draft the best player available. They don't have an absolute need, especially now they have Stafford. They don't have something they have to draft. Their secondary's great. Their D-line's great. Their O-line ranked third PFF. Their receivers are amazing. Tight end, running back, Cam Akers. Those teams are long gone. And the Buccaneers, in my opinion, probably have the third best roster in the National Football League. And it guarantees absolutely nothing. Now I can see them winning. It's called the 2007 Super Bowl, where the flashy Patriots, Randy Moss, Wes Welker, and all those points came in, and the New York Giants defensive line just wore down even Dante Scarnecchia's Patriot offensive line. They just wore them down. And in the end, Giants made a big play and upset those unbeaten Patriots. There's no question that's possible. In fact, the wise guys, the sharps in Vegas, jumped on Tampa plus 3.5. That's the game they mostly envision. The early bettors is that D-line just doing a Giants on the Patriots and controlling the Kansas City Chiefs. But boy, it is hard to bet against Reed and Mahomes and special. In almost half their drives in the playoffs, almost half, the Chiefs have scored a touchdown. That doesn't make any sense. It's incredibly difficult to bet against special. I remember when the Miami Heat were great. And you had Bosch and LeBron and Wade. And they had no size. They had no size. Like Joel Anthony was a center. He was 6'8". They weren't very good at point guard. Point guards always matter in the finals. They had a new kid coach, Spoelstra. Their bench was hit and miss. At times they were too old. LeBron and Wade didn't even perfectly fit together. Bosch's game got marginalized. Hey, Chris, 25 a game? Go out in the perimeter and shoot jumpers. But it was special. They'd go through these 6, 7, 8-minute spurts. And you're like, yeah, this is special. That's Kansas City. Hard to bet against. I'll give my pick in 50 minutes. Really interesting article by Mike Silver, who sometimes I agree with, sometimes I don't, about the Brady effect. How Tampa went all in with a get-rich-quick scheme that paid off handsomely. Let's get Tom and let's get stars. And will it change the league? Interesting to think about that from at least one angle. That's coming up.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, 3-time Pro Bowler LeVar Arrington, and I couldn't be more excited to announce a new podcast called Up On Game. What is Up On Game, you ask? Along with my fellow Pro Bowler, the man, long hair, Mr. Prince Charming himself, TJ Hushmanzada, and Stretch Armstrong, Super Bowl champion. Yup, that's right. Plexico Burris. Did you hear that? LeVar Arrington, TJ Hushmanzada, Plexico Burris, all on one show? Sheesh. You can only name a show with that type of talent on it. Up On Game. We're going to be sharing our real-life experiences, our real-life stories, people, loaded with teachable moments. That's the key. This show will break the mold and create a new way of thinking about athletes and sports topics. Listen to Up On Game with me, LeVar Arrington, TJ Hushmanzada, and Plexico Burris on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. Tune in, people!
From iHeartRadio and Doghouse Pictures, this is Fight Night.
They thought he had robbed the deadliest man in this country. Guys who would not hesitate to blow your head off.
This story from Atlanta, Georgia, has been reported for 50 years. But now, for the first time, you're going to hear what really happened from the people who lived it. Binge all the episodes now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Interesting article by Mike Silver. Sometimes I agree with him, sometimes I don't, but it's called The Brady Effect. He writes a story talking to multiple general managers and coaches in the NFL regarding, as he calls it, a get-rich-quick scheme that paid off handsomely. Let's blow it all up, bring in old Brady, and see if it works. Relentless is the best word to describe Tom, said Jason Light, the GM for the Buccaneers. There's some fascinating quotes here. John Snyder, Seattle GM, says, listen, there's a lot less patience than there used to be. I think more people are going to move around and go for it. There's another anonymous executive that says teams are seeing quarterbacks increasingly as commodities like every other position. They're no longer sacred cows. You're good fast or you're gone. And it's interesting. Let's look at the organizations that have been patient with their starting quarterbacks. The Bears and Mitch Trubisky. Jacksonville and Blake Bortles. Tennessee for 4 years, Marcus Mariota. Tampa and Jameis Winston. What did it get you? It's why Baker Mayfield has yet to get a contract extension, and Josh Allen will. Same class. Why? What's Baker done? He's kind of short, not crazy athletic. What is patience getting you? It took him 2 years just to frankly grow up. You hope he continues in that direction with the maturity. Fair or not, Darnold's probably done in New York. Show me where patience, it's like television shows. If by the middle of the second year, you're not gaining traction, you're off the air. And the NFL's the #1 television show. Quarterbacks should be better. They should be. They have Elite 11 camps. They throw 10,000 passes by the time they're 11 years old. People will go out and say, what about Josh Allen, Buffalo? What about him? Pay attention. The last 12 games of year 2, he had 17 touchdowns and 3 picks, and the best arm in football. Yeah, he can throw it further than Patrick Mahomes, and he's 6'6", he's bigger than Patrick, and probably runs just as fast as Patrick. Josh Allen wasn't somebody you had to be patient with. 5 games into his second year, by game 6, you're like, whoa. Baker's short, Josh is big. Baker's semi-athletic, Josh is a stud. That's why Baker can't get a contract extension. Why? What's the pay? Sean McVay. Okay, I'm in year 3 with you. You're still turning the ball over. I'm out. Kyle Shanahan and Garoppolo, 3.5 years. You've missed 23 starts. We've seen 2 stories. He's out. Kansas City, stop being patient with Alex Smith, Super Bowl. Joe Flacco was fine in Baltimore. They got impatient. Lamar Jackson, they're winning more. Tennessee was 9-7, 9-7, 9-7, 9-7. Got impatient, got Tannehill. They're better. No more coddling quarterbacks. You should be better. You're getting more snaps in your teens. Show me where patience works. And don't give me Josh Allen. He was great by the middle to the end of the second year. He was putting up big touchdowns, few picks, running around, 6'6", huge arm, hyper athletic, couldn't stop him, and got to the playoffs at 10-6. And that's a big deal for Buffalo. We're not talking Packers here. Okay, that's a 10-6 for the Bills. Second year, Brady was still in the division. That's a thing. Joy Taylor with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Well, Tom Brady is obviously with the Bucs now, and his relationship with Patriots owner Robert Kraft is still going strong. Brady's back in the Super Bowl, and Kraft is hoping that he gets to raise the Lombardi Trophy for the 7th time. He said, I'm rooting for Tom Brady. I'm so excited. We've had some great communications, and he is such a special human being. We were privileged to have him here for 2 decades, and he's one of the finest human beings I've ever met.
Oh.
He knows how to lead, and I wish him well. I really hope he wins Sunday.
Because you know what? Bob's legacy, unlike Belichick, isn't crafted by Tom's success. So he is unselfishly rooting for him because it's all about friendship. He already won that. He already elevated. His net worth went up $800 million due to Tom.
Robert Kraft said, I would very much like to be excluded from this narrative. He wants no parts of this future documentary about how he was also rooting against Tom Brady, who did all those things that you just mentioned for his organization. No, he wants no parts of this. But I also think he genuinely does care about Tom Brady, and he doesn't need the validation.
That's right.
Robert Kraft was a great owner during that dynasty. He did not meddle. He let Belichick do what he needed to do. The only time he intervened was with Jimmy Garoppolo, and it turned out to be the right thing. So, whenever we look back on this dynasty, Robert Kraft is not going to be the problematic part of this dynasty.
No, he smartly moved. He is just friends with Tommy and loves
But even
Tommy.
before that, everything that has led up to this, they didn't win in spite of him.
That's right.
And now that the narrative is becoming who's winning this divorce, so, the Patriots relevant, what's going on with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, he is firmly planting himself in, this has nothing to do with me. I have no problem with Tom Brady. I wish him well. I'm not competing against him or rooting against him. That's the right thing to do. I do think it's genuine as well. But look, we're all watching all the time when it comes to these big brands and big names and dynasty and who played a role, and this is a very petty situation. So I see what you're doing, and I like it, even if it is genuine. So rumors that Andrew Luck may come out of retirement and play for the Colts again have been running wild this week. It's a very kind of bizarre story. But Jim Irsay doesn't want fans to get their hopes up, and he's shutting down any reports that Luck could be making a comeback. He said he's more retired now than he was a year and a half ago. He definitely is retired, and there's no wiggle room or rumor or anything, as much as people would like to hear that. Believe me, I wish it was true. And I was hiding some big announcement, but that's just not the case.
That feels right to me. I think Andrew's so unique. We talked about this yesterday. That I just think Andrew's one of those guys. He's not a look-back guy. His life wasn't framed by football. He
always had interests outside of football. He was also, I think, the way that he retired, that was a big, dramatic decision to make. And because his personality is the way that he is, I never felt like this was a flippant decision.
Right.
But I also tend, when it comes to football, to believe guys when they say they were retired. Like, I thought Gronk was done.
Yeah. I think, by the way, Gronk was done.
Yeah, I think the only reason he came back is because Tom went to New England. To Tampa Bay.
In a warm weather place where his buddy's leaving.
Exactly. And it's probably only going to be for 1 year. So it's an outlier situation. But look, the story was a little sketch to begin with. It's like screenshots and this person who knows this person who knows this person kind of situation. Again, to Andrew Luck's wife, you gotta cut that lady off. Whoever, if that was real, you can't have people spreading your screenshots around the internet. But it's also because they're in a situation where they need a quarterback, and they're ready to win right now. And this is a situation, actually, strangely enough, you leave the relationship a little bit too soon, and then they hit it big, which is what the Colts are in right now. A win-now situation. They've got the offensive line. They've got the weapons. They've got the coaching. Everything is in place.
It feels a little like Tony Romo. When Tony Romo was with the Cowboys, most of his career, the offensive line stunk. And then they built it and drafted it, and by the time it got great, Tony was so beat up he left. And Dak got the advantage of the greatest offensive line in football for his career. And it's the same thing. As Andrew got beat up, then they realized it, and then as he leaves, they're like, we got to build our offensive lineup so the next guy didn't get beaten. I just wish Romo could have had Tyron Smith, for 10 years, and I wish Luck could have had the protection. And I think Romo and Andrew Luck were both great.
And I don't think either one of them have regrets about how their career has gone.
Yeah,
they're both in a
well.
great situation and have done well. But there is some of that, and maybe that's where the story came from. There is some of that, what if? But that's how it goes sometimes. Yeah. So before Matthew Stafford was dealt to the Rams, he reportedly told the Lions the one place he didn't want to go was New England, but that could be for the best because former Patriot Teddy Bruschi doesn't think Stafford has what it takes to play in that organization.
Oh, boy.
He's just not tough enough. I don't think he's tough enough to be coached hard. Do you realize the mental toughness that Tom Brady had to have for 20 years to deal with Bill Belichick? In that type of coaching, constant pressure every single day. Does Stafford sort of grab you as a guy that could handle that? I just don't think so. So he went to Sean McVay and get his little best friend relationship and go have fun over there. That's fine.
Oh my goodness.
It's kind of hard.
Well, there's a couple ways you can look at this. He's definitely taking a shot at Matthew Stafford. Little best friend relationship, that's a shot. I don't disagree with him that it does take a certain level of mental toughness to deal with that organization and that structure, that pressure to be coached by Bill Belichick. Yeah, we know he coaches hard, and it's Tom Brady, and he never wrapped his arms around him. He's the greatest to ever do it, and they never had a buddy-buddy relationship, or really even like a close relationship. So that is how he is, and that does take a certain type of person to be able to deal with. That's your head coach, and you don't have any kind of relationship with them. So I do understand what he's saying. But that's not the reason Matthew Stafford didn't want to go to New England. He didn't want to go to New England because New England is terrible right now.
They have no skilled people.
no one to throw to. Did you watch last year, Teddy? That's why he didn't want to go there.
Also, I think Belichick was very pro-Cam and Cam friendly. So I do think Belichick sees the changing of the guard a little bit, the harder coaching now. I think McVay was a part of this about 4 years ago. Kind of the rigid, bang-on-guy stuff.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that anymore. You're talking to grown men who are millionaires and make a ton of money away from the field as well. I also think that another reason he didn't want to go there, Matthew Stafford, is that he doesn't want to be held to the standard of Tom Brady in New England. I wouldn't want to go to New England either. I don't think it's because he's too soft to deal with Bill Belichick. First of all, Matthew Stafford, for whatever it's worth, he spent 12 years in Detroit. I know you're not calling anything about Detroit soft, so Let's not go there.
If you're Matt Stafford, I get Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Cam Akers, 2 elite tackles, and Sean McVay.
And their defense.
Or I get Sony Michel and
Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick.
And the pressure of living up to Tom Brady's standards.
It's not even, if I'm Matt Stafford, it's not even close. You go to Los Angeles. By the way, my second choice after LA would have been the Colts. Now, they need another receiver, but they have a star back, a great O-line, a good defense, a good coach, Michael Pittman. They need another receiver, but New England's just not that attractive right now. Cold weather, playing outdoors, no tight ends, no receivers, and a defensive coach. What? The Colts have an offensive coach. The Rams have an offensive coach. The Niners have an offensive coach. It's not about toughness. It's about where would you want to go?
It has nothing to do with toughness at all.
Nothing.
And you have to deal with the pressure of living up to Tom Brady. Like, that's not an ideal situation.
Can you imagine the people that have to replace us someday? Who'd want that? Good luck.
Good luck.
Luck with that. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
Oh, I was thinking about this. So, do we have that, a year ago? So, about a year ago, today, Thursday, Friday, we were getting ready for the Kansas City, San Francisco Super Bowl. Okay, do you remember the topic on Thursday, Friday was this picture? Now, I'm sorry for the radio audience. It's Brady on his Twitter. Is he walking into the stadium? Is he walking out of it? Is he retiring? Is he taking a shot at the Patriots? Was he crazy? And remember, the season had just ended poorly. He threw a pick six. He had no weapons. We saw him shouting at teammates at the end of the year. They were 4-5 in their last 9 games. This was today, a year ago today, that was leading my show. This picture of Tom Brady. Now, since then, it's gone really well for Tom. New team, better weather, amazing weapons, beat Drew Brees, beat Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, and now in the Super Bowl. But do you remember this picture? And do you remember, Tom is actually funny, do you remember the commercial? Because last year was a year of great Super Bowl commercials. This is one of the better ones. Here's Brady.
They say all good things must come to an end. That the best just know when to walk away. So to my teammates, my family, and most of all, my fans, you deserve to hear this from me. Hulu doesn't just have live sports. According to the script they just gave me, Hulu also has your favorite cable channels plus the greatest shows, movies, and originals of all time. So it's time to say goodbye to TV as you know it. But me? I'm not going anywhere.
God, that's great. Then he announces in March he's going to the Buccaneers. That is so funny when you look back. And by the way, he had already made up his mind. We thought that was an announcement he was going back to New England.
He had us in a frenzy. We were like zooming in, trying to see which way his foot was facing. Is he walking in? Is he walking out? The way his knee was bent, it was brilliant. Joe
Thomas, NFL Network, certain first ballot Hall of Famer, 11 years, 10 Pro Bowls, joining us now live. By the way, Joe, when you saw that picture in that commercial last year, I was shocked he went to Tampa. Were you shocked?
I was shocked. I mean, I thought, if anything, he was going to just retire as a Patriot. It seemed like he was ready to maybe ride off into the sunset by watching that picture. But I think there's one thing that we got to remember about Tom Brady. There's nothing in his life that he enjoys more than being out there and competing with his teammates for a championship. And he's clearly going to do that until he cannot do that any longer. And basically eating avocado ice cream apparently has allowed him to do that for several more years and maybe even into his 50s. I wish I would have learned that, and then I might still be playing in the NFL.
So Pro Football Focus ranked the top 15 players. Kansas City's got 3 or 4 stars at the top, and then from about 7 to 15, it's almost all Buccaneers. The deeper roster is Tampa. The more star-studded top of the roster is Kansas City. In your years in the NFL, what would you bet on, the stars or the depth?
So if this was a normal Super Bowl with great conditions, I would bet with the Stars because those are the guys that are going to be the most well practiced. They're going to be able to utilize the game plan as it's been scripted for the last 2 weeks, as you've been doing the entire season. But with the weather conditions potentially being a little bit tough on Sunday, I think there's supposed to be some rain, potentially some wind. I think I go with depth because what depth does is it gives you more ways to win. You're going to be able to run the ball to win. You're going to be able to throw the ball deep to win. You're going to be able to throw the ball short to win if you got to play zone coverage, if you got to play man coverage. However you have to play the game to win, depth gives you the opportunity to play that type of game. So I think this tilts the game a little bit more in the Buccaneers' favor because of that depth that they have and because of the potential adverse weather on Sunday.
Listen, you didn't have the great fortune of having a star quarterback, but you yourself are a leader. It's very clear that Tom walked into that locker room, and there was turbulence, Joe. There's the Thursday night Chicago game. He's screaming at teammates. There's 11 penalties. It wasn't easy. It's like Troy Aikman, his first couple years in Dallas. NFL films. He's barking at guys. Get in line. And when you look at that, it's just kind of, you can't argue it. Tom is maybe not the most talented quarterback, but in terms of leadership, what he's done in Tampa, there's no comp. Did you ever play with a player? Didn't have to be a quarterback, where you just felt they had an ability to lead other successful alpha males?
I played with a lot of quarterbacks, and I played with a lot of other players that were great leaders. But the reason Tom Brady, in my opinion, is the greatest leader that we've ever seen in any sport, in American sport, is because he's combined the great leadership intangibles that you talk about with the great on-field performance. Because the way you become a great leader of men is by not only talking the talk, but walking the walk. So when Brady's at the line of scrimmage and he tells you to do something, you know you better do it because he's counting on you, because you know he's going to do his job, and you better be able to do your job and hold up your end of the bargain. And I think that's what's made him such an incredible leader for 2 decades, and he walks right into Tampa Bay. He's out there doing all the things he's asking everybody else to do. So as a great leader, as a boss, the best ones are always the ones that would never ask you to do something that they haven't done or that they're not willing to currently do.
It's interesting. Mahomes, his personality is different than Tom. Now, he's also very young, but he's a little more joyful, a little more playful. I've been at 2 events where he's there. He's like a kid. Where Tom, even when he was 25, was one of those people like Russell Wilson, 25 going on 40. And Mahomes very much lives in the moment of being a kid. Are there advantages or disadvantages to that? He's a little more playful, a little looser than Tom. How do you think that plays out over the next 15 years?
I think that's just a difference of generations, right? That's just Patrick Mahomes' generation, the new generation, the early 20s people, the YOLO generation versus the Tom Brady generation, which, you look at all those quarterbacks that came out when Brady was playing, and they're all much more serious. And I think both personalities work. It's whoever you are. You just got to let your personality out. And I think we've seen this in spades in the last 3-4 years in the NFL. And I think Brady was able to prove it, and Gronk was able to prove it coming down to Tampa. Like, the success of Belichick in New England was not because he was stern and serious and he made everybody's life miserable. It was because he was an amazing coach, and he watched tons of film and was able to put all those guys in a great position to succeed. And he got those guys to buy into something bigger than themselves, this team concept, right? And I think Patrick Mahomes has that. Now, he does it with a little bit more joy on his face. He seems to be having a little bit more fun maybe than especially when Tom was in New England. But I think both can work because in the end, it's all about playing and doing something bigger than yourself, buying into that team concept, working hard, and getting the most out of all those guys and finding ways to individually motivate everybody.
Listen, you played 10,363 straight snaps. You could have played a lot longer if not for injuries. You could have played, you were a dominant player your last snap in the NFL. But it's interesting, as you were getting into your 30s, you were playing with a lot of guys that were in their early 20s. So Brady's 43. And that whole generational thing is kind of interesting, Joe. Is it a challenge, do you think? In your last year in the NFL, sometimes kids would come into the locker room with music and tech, and did you think, wow, I'm getting old here? Did you face that challenge?
Man, I was that grumpy guy in the locker room when I was 26 years old, and it was twice as bad when I was 34, my last year in the NFL. And I think this is one of the reasons why the dynasty and the greatness of Tom Brady hasn't fully been appreciated, is because he's in his early 40s right now, and he's able to humble himself. The greatest sports athlete that we've ever seen in American history, he's able to humble himself and go up to a 21 or 22-year-old rookie, and he's willing to be interested in the things that those guys are interested in. I got to be honest, it was hard for me to relate to a lot of those young guys in the locker room my last couple of years in the NFL with how they dressed or the music they listened to or the social media stuff. I didn't even have a Twitter until my last year or two in the NFL, and I still don't have anything else because I can't manage more than one social media handle. But Brady's been able to constantly reinvent himself, and that's something that few successful older players are able to do, because you know what success does? It makes you sort of stuck in your ways because you think this is the only way I can do this to have success because it's the way it worked for me the first time. But Brady has been flexible, and that's something very, very few superstar athletes are able to have.
He made the College Football Hall of Fame. He'll be eligible for the NFL Hall of Fame, I think, in 23, and he will be a first ballot guy. Follow him on his Twitter account. He's got one social media account. I want everybody to follow him at Joe Thomas73. We'll talk to you soon up to the draft. It's a great year for offensive linemen in the draft, so I'm going to bring you on a couple times, give you some love. Joe, we got to go. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Colin. I look forward to seeing you at the draft and talking offensive line play and putting your listeners to sleep a little bit.
I appreciate it. It's a great draft for receivers and offensive tackles. Coming up next, is Tom the last pocket quarterback? And then is it done? Some thoughts on that and where we're going in the sport next.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Hi, it's Laverne Cox, and on my new podcast, The Laverne Cox Show, we're ripping the Band-Aid off trauma resilience, dating, diet culture, dating, white supremacy, dating.
Okay, I'm not gonna get explicit, but just because you cute, like I'm not going to.
I know what you were gonna say. Yes, girl. And honey, we have a lot of fun along the way.
You have a lot of lesbian fans who love your femininity and glamour, and they just really, really want you.
And I want us to talk openly about the difficult things we all face as humans, and as humans in America.
Racist white people in the United States will sign their own death certificates. They will vote for policies that crush them, no safety nets, no health care, because they feel too much like entitlements, and those are folks of color, right?
Listen to the Laverne Cox Show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe and share.
It's safe to say 2020 was one of the most difficult years ever for so many, and these remain very challenging times. That's why I'm here to ask you, how can I help? My name is Dr. Gail Saltz, host of the new weekly podcast, How Can I Help, with Dr. Gail Saltz, brought to you by the Seneca Women Podcast Network and iHeartRadio. I'm a clinical associate professor of psychiatry at the New York Presbyterian Hospital, a psychoanalyst, best-selling author, and I'm here to help. Join me every Friday, where you can ask your most pressing questions and get helpful guidance on topics ranging from coping with anxiety and mood, relationships, to family and parenting issues, to workplace dynamics, to dealing with COVID fatigue, and everything in between. While it has been a tough time, you don't have to navigate it alone. So, how can I help? You can send your questions anonymously to me at howcanihelp@senecawomen.com, and I will answer with specific advice and understanding. Listen to How Can I Help with Dr. Gail Saltz on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'll make my pick at the top of next hour. It's interesting. So, I never want to, I want to live in the moment, but I don't want to overreact to stuff. And 19 of the last 21 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks were pocket quarterbacks. Okay, so I'm not going to, Mahomes and Russell Wilson are considered guys that really move around a lot. And so you think to yourself, everybody's going to be a pocket guy. That guy's done. Jared Goff got to a Super Bowl recently. Matt Stafford's a pocket guy with the Rams. He'll be viable. Brady's in a Super Bowl. Matt Ryan got to a Super Bowl. Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins win a lot of games and get to the playoffs. Kirk Cousins does recently. So, but it does make you think, and I'll give you an example. If you look at the 6 Pro Bowl quarterbacks this year, it was Mahomes, Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and Aaron Rodgers, who is now the bare minimum you can have athletically. He moves around a little, but he's a pocket guy. So is the game changing? Well, the rules are changing. It's not that the game is changing. And I'll give you an example. Basketball. When Steph Curry broke into the NBA, that year, first year, LeBron shot 31% from three-point range. This year, LeBron shoots 41% from three-point range. So the game, it's basketball, right? You got to defend guys, got to beat guys off the dribble, you got to elevate others. But LeBron said, the analytics, the game is changing, so I've got to change with it. But LeBron's largely overwhelmingly the same player, and it's not like he shot 17% from threes and now 50. He was at 31, he's now 41. He was slightly better than average then, he's slightly better than average now. But he evolved and he adapted. And so that's what I think smart players like LeBron do, and it's what smart coaches do. And I'll give you an example. Here is the graph with all the new rules of where Tom Brady's touchdown passes, is this where his touchdown passes were thrown this year? Every throw. So I'm sorry for the radio audience. They're all in the exact same area. Right in the middle, right behind the line of scrimmage, right behind it. 3-step drop, 5-step drop, 7-step drop. You know where Tommy's going to be when the ball is snapped. He's going to be right behind center. He's got one out to the right. Then look at Mahomes' chart where every ball was thrown. It's all over the field. It's all over the field. So, but 85% of them are still in the middle of the field, right where Tommy stands and throws it. So it's not that LeBron's game is radically different. He's still a great passer, ball handler. He still loves finishing at the rim. He's just gone from a pretty good three-point shooter to a pretty darn good three-point shooter. Mahomes is still, that's why I don't want to overreact to all this stuff, that Mahomes is still at his best, I think, in the pocket. And 19 of the last 21 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks are pocket people. But what you're seeing is, and Sean McVay got tired of Goff, is that the smarter coaches are looking at the rule changes and they want to move the pocket. They want to add variables to it, and you can't with Goff, and you can't with Matt Ryan, and you don't really with Teddy Bridgewater. And so, like quarterbacks, if you look at the 4 quarterbacks that are highest rated in this draft class, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Zach Wilson, they're all movers. They're all good in the pocket, but they're all movers. There's a special feeling, and I'll give you an example. Tua ran a 4.940, and Dwayne Haskins ran a 5.140. They don't feel special. They're both, Dwayne Haskins has a big, strong arm from the pocket, and Tua, when he's on platform, is a very accurate thrower. But Justin Herbert ran a 4.640. With his ability to throw in the pocket, he feels like he's got a brighter future. Joe Burrow doesn't have a great arm. He's good from the pocket, but it's the Tony Romo wiggle to his game. So I do think a pocket quarterback, they're all pocket, outside of Lamar, and he's getting better in the pocket. Outside of Lamar, everybody in the league is a pocket quarterback. But as I showed you with that chart, when you can add variables and curveballs and breaking balls, and you're just, LeBron, just a little better, a little more dangerous. You got to guard him now. You can't let him shoot it. That's adapt, don't change, I guess, the herd.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on demand whenever you'd like.
Lancaster, South Carolina is in the middle of not much. But growing up nearby, I knew it as the hometown of a black man named Jim Duncan, who became a Super Bowl hero.
Duncan up to the 15, 20.
And on my new podcast, Return Man, I'll discover that his death still makes no sense at all.
The story was that my brother went into the police station, took a gun off a police officer, and shot himself in the head. Most people don't believe that.
For the past 3 years at the Rock Hill Herald, I've looked back at a story that's timelier than ever. Have you got some time to talk?
It involves race, the mental state of the person, and a child that was scared to death to say anything.
Listen to Return Man on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you took away the date and time, could you imagine that happening today? Yes, you can.
In need of a cocktail and a good laugh? Tune into our podcast, Two Guys from Hollywood. I'm Alan Nevins, a literary agent and manager.
And I'm Joey Santos, a columnist and celebrity chef.
Join our weekly conversations with friends, clients, and contemporaries to discuss the realities of working and living in LA.
From showrunners to showstoppers,
Real Housewives to historians.
we're serving up hot takes and cocktail recipes you won't want to miss.
We don't dish, we serve. So grab a drink and join us each week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Here we go. It is hour 2 on a Friday. The Friday before Sunday's Super Bowl is going to be wet lightning, according to latest Tampa reports. This is The Herd, wherever you may be, however you may be listening. Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, and FS1. Joy Taylor joins me. Malcolm Jenkins, formerly of the Eagles, now of the Saints, a team I think has the best roster. He'll talk about Tom Brady, like to defend him, like to face him. He faced him 3 times this year. All right, Joy. If I asked you who you like to win, I'm going to give my pick in 2 minutes.
I have my pick.
Give it so. You don't have to. Is it a secret? What do you...
No, it's not a secret. The Fox Sports Radio just tweeted all of our picks.
Oh,
out,
okay.
So no, I have the Chiefs winning 38-34.
Okay, you have a shootout.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm reading Clark Hunt. He's the CEO and the Kansas City Chiefs chairman, and he's talking about how, Mahomes is so much better, so much quicker than Jordan, and Jordan took time and time and time. I think one of the things about the NFL that is so unique, and I've always been a big fan of recruiting and the NFL draft. I have friends who have listened to me in Los Angeles 15 years ago, and they're like, you were so into the draft. Like, who cares about drafts? A friend of mine always says that. He goes, you were so into it, you made me into the draft. This is one of the things, this is why I love the draft and why I love football. In baseball, Bryce Harper, everybody knew he was going to be great at 16. We knew A-Rod was going to be great at 17. They were writing stories about him. In the NBA, LeBron and Kobe were turning heads at 15 and 16. Tiger, 13 years old. Serena and Venus, 12, 13. Connor McDavid hockey. In every other sport, there's no big surprises on the next star. In the NFL, you have no idea where they're coming from. Josh Allen went to a JUCO. Russell Wilson had to transfer. Brady backed up in college. Mahomes had a losing record at a losing program. Aaron Rodgers, nobody offered him a scholarship. He went to a junior college. You have no idea where the next, forget the player, the next star of the league comes from. Think about this. From 2000 to 2017, that's almost 2 decades, the number 1 high school football quarterback recruit. 17 years of the number 1. One even starts in the NFL, and he's never won a playoff game, Matt Stafford. 1 of 17 starts in the league. It doesn't work that way in basketball. It doesn't work that way in hockey. Connor McDavid was playing juniors in Canada. He was 15 years old, and everybody was like, oh, he's the next Gretzky. Bryce Harper, A-Rod. You see it coming for miles. You have no idea. Think about this. The last 3 number 1 quarterbacks all transferred. Joe Burrow transferred. Baker Mayfield transferred. Kyler Murray transferred. First team's like, nah, you're not good enough. Then I go to the other place. It's really amazing. There's nothing else like it. Serena Venus, talking about them when we were kids. Tiger was kids. That's the way it works in every sport. Michael Phelps was at the Olympics at 15. There are no late bloomers at the Olympics. Like everybody knows when you're 13, 14, 15 Olympic sports, you're going to be the next star, man or women. So it's who would have guessed Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady? One couldn't start in college, one didn't, lost. In fact, I've said the last time that I can really think of it where there was a legendary high school quarterback, legendary college, came to the NFL was Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was unbelievable in high school. He's unbelievable in college. He was very good at me. I mean, that one was like, you could see Peyton Manning was a 78-mile-an-hour curveball. You could see it coming for miles. It was a bad boxer. You could see the right hook for miles. Peyton Manning was, he's going to be good. 5 years later, he is good. 6 years later, he's in the NFL. That's it, though. It doesn't work that way. Everybody's transferring, going to junior college. Big Ben's going to Miami of Ohio. It's crazy.
Maybe it has something to do with the fact that there's so many more moving parts in football than there are in other sports.
You depend on more people.
Like in an individual sport like Michael Phelps or Serena or, a track star, like just you. Like you're just going to be better or you're not. You can't rely on anybody else. It's just you running the race. It's just you swimming. Like there's a lot of moving parts in football. Maybe it has something to do with it.
You really rely on other people for your success.
Yeah.
And here's another thing. Football practice is hard. It weeds a lot of people out. Like, I've talked to general managers for years. They're like, the reason the NFL draft, half the NFL is undrafted, which is insane. It's insane. They're like, you can measure biceps, 40s, shuttle, bench. What you can't measure is, for the first time in a football player's life, you get this in boxing a little too, somebody punches back. Like in the NBA, Giannis, he's dunked over everybody since he was 15. Like there's nobody, but in football, he hits you as hard as you hit him, and that's within you. Some guys just don't have the stomach to get hit. They bulldoze their way over high school players, they bulldoze their way over college players, and they get to the NFL, and they get bulldozed occasionally, and they don't like it. The bully gets bullied, and they don't like it. And that's part of the NFL. It weeds out a lot of people beyond athleticism. All right, so let's just make a pick. Like many games in the playoffs, I had very little conviction. In fact, the most conviction I had, really, honestly, was Green Bay over Tampa, and that didn't work out. So I say this knowing I can see several outcomes. But I get a lot of more with Kansas City -3. They're more dynamic with extra time. Andy Reid is 26-5 following a bye, best in NFL history. They're more dynamic, period. 34 points a game in Patrick Mahomes' 7 career playoff starts. They have more experience. 33 different players on their roster have played in the Super Bowl, Tampa 6. They're more capable of playing in bad environments. They were the only NFL team to go undefeated on the road this year. I have more proof Kansas City's better than Tampa because I saw them chew them up and spit them out in Week 12. I have proof, more of it, that Mahomes will handle the pressure. In 2 playoff games, when throwing the ball with pressure, Mahomes has a passer rating of 102. In 3 playoff games, when Brady faces pressure, he has a quarterback rating, a passer rating of 31. I have more proof that Tom will struggle early in this game. In the first half of his last 3 Super Bowls, 0 touchdowns, 3 picks, and a 74.2 quarterback rating. I've just got more signs that Kansas City's better, and more signs that Brady will struggle early and against pressure. I think a lot of this game is played within the 20s. I think Super Bowls, though Tampa has a deeper roster, are generally decided by stars. I will take Kansas City to win 31-24. I do not say this with great conviction. The weather's crappy. It hurts the more vertical offense. That would be Kansas City. Tampa's at home. The Chiefs have a major left tackle injury. They're using a backup against a dominating pass rush, JPP, Shaq Barrett. Vita Vea is healthy, meaning the Chiefs won't run a ton. But like last year, I thought San Francisco was better than Kansas City. I thought they had a better defensive line and offensive line than Kansas City. And then the Chiefs scored 21 points in 5 minutes and 5 seconds and blew my bet out of the water. I find it very difficult to bet against special. There's so many reasons I would take Tampa in this game. Brady's experience. They're playing at home. Their defensive line is better. Their linebackers are better. I think overall their defense is scarier. But I'll take Kansas City. 31-24. I've just got more proof. More dynamic. More wins off a bye. More capable of blowing out Tampa because I've seen it. Less chance of a quarterback struggling early. Mahomes over Brady. More pressure hurts Brady more than Mahomes. And there you have it. By the way, Brady's been sacked 5 times when under pressure. Mahomes only 1. Mahomes does have, I was listening to Aqib Talib talk about this the other day. Every quarterback has a kind of a style the way they play. And Peyton Manning was known for having busy feet. He was always moving his feet. It looked nervous. Everybody's got something. Omaha, and nervous feet. When you look at Mahomes, his signature style is the back pedal. He just keeps back. He has such confidence in his arm. He just keeps backpedaling and backpedaling. He's like 12 steps deep, and it doesn't really matter. He can make those throws. So even though Tampa will get pressure, Mahomes is sort of a master of backing up, and still burning you. But we'll see. If we got 16, 18-mile-an-hour winds, Tyreek Hill over the top's not going to happen. So, it's the way a Super Bowl should be. I'm happy either way. I know y'all think you're a Brady fan, but I do think, and I've said this for years, there is a little bit of a LeBron fatigue in the NBA. He's dominated for so long. There's a Brady fatigue. I think if Kansas City wins, my numbers are higher Monday on this show than if Brady wins. I think people come in, Colin, what are you going to say about your guy Brady? And I think Brady and LeBron are respected, but I do think there's a little bit of a fatigue going on. And I think for the NFL, I think Kansas City winning's better. I think we have a dynasty. Leagues get a little concerned, but the NFL ratings for 20 years with New England went up. And they were up with the Steelers, and they were up with the Niners. When they're not up is when quarterback plays average and anybody can win.
Dynasties are better. Fans think that they hate them, but they actually watch more.
Of course.
In a way, it gives you someone to root against.
As long as the dynasty's interesting. When the Yankees in the 90s had all those stars and A-Rod and Jeter, or 2000s, like that's fascinating.
But even the Patriots, they weren't, they were very quiet. They weren't dramatic, but everyone hated them.
Right.
So it gave you someone to root against. This is Cowboys. You either love or you hate the Cowboys.
Yeah,
right?
The Jimmy Johnson Cowboys were good for the league.
Yes.
The Niners were good for the league.
If you can be polarizing.
Yeah. So I think Monday, if they win, I do think, I said this earlier, I do feel like it's a little bit the risky business moment for Tom Cruise. Everybody knew who Tom Cruise was. He'd done several nice movies. Then he did risky business in his underwear, and he became iconic. And you can win one Super Bowl, but when you win a second and Mahomes beats Brady head-to-head, he'll become iconic. And we were talking this morning, like, where will he be all time with quarterbacks? I don't know. But there's like 4 or 5 people I'd put ahead of him. Montana, Brady, Peyton Manning, Elway. And then the list gets, Mahomes, to me, what do you do with Favre, Rodgers, and Mahomes? Then you have argument. I still think Elway, Brady, Montana, Peyton, I'm going to give those guys, that's kind of a different class. But if Mahomes wins a second, there are arguments to be made about Favre and Rodgers and Fouts, and that's when you're going to get in Steve Young, you're going to get into the argument class, and longevity against brilliance. Sandy Koufax is considered the greatest pitcher of all time. He had 3 unhittable years and 6 good years. He was really good for 6. He was unhittable for 3, and we consider him the best. Like, it's not, I said this before, it's not a longevity argument when you look like Mahomes. Like with Brady, he can keep winning, but because we think the best quarterback should have a rocket arm and move around like Elway, John's the best. It's amazing how often we give aesthetically, optically pleasing quarterbacks the benefit of the doubt. Favre won 1 Super Bowl, Aaron won. They're the best. Brady wins 6. He's a system guy. Mahomes is not going to have to win 6. If he wins 3, we'll immediately put him up there with Joe and Tom because he plays like the best quarterback should play. He's very Elway. He's got the best arm. He runs around. He ad-libs. He doesn't look. He throws left-handed. That matters in the argument. I said this. Bill Russell had 11 titles. Nobody ever called him the GOAT. His game didn't look like the GOAT. And then Michael Jordan was the best looking player, and he was the most stylish, and he was the most glamorous, he was the best, and he was the best dressed, and you're like, yeah, that's a GOAT. He's got half as many as Russell, but that's what the GOAT is. And that's why it matters, like with LeBron. We watch him, his game can be dominating, he can shoot, he's got a coolness to him, the passing. You know, you start looking at the greatest basketball players, there isn't an aesthetic that matters. Like Bill Russell, Kareem, by the way, I could argue is the best player. He's got the most points, the MVPs, but Kareem's game with the sky hook, it just wasn't.
What's the saying? I'm about to butcher it. It's not like what you accomplish, it's what you make people feel.
Yeah.
I know I slaughtered that. But
no, but you're right. It's not how you make me think. It's how you make me feel. The great politicians. It's not about being smart. How do they make you feel?
Yeah, if you make someone emote, they're gonna remember that. Like the things you remember in life the most is when you were like the most emotionally vulnerable, whether it was like anger or sorrow or happiness, and like spectacular, glamorous players make you feel like you remember seeing Michael Jordan do this amazing thing in his 6th championship. You remember LeBron's like big moments,
right?
You know, and if it's like longevity, but it's not really like spectacular.
Mahomes is spectacular, so he doesn't need 6 rings to be considered the GOAT. Malcolm Jenkins, great player, Pro Bowler, Saints, faced Tom 3 times this year. I think he was healthy for all. He may have missed one. Well, I'll ask him coming up. I'll check.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
From iHeartRadio and Doghouse Pictures, this is Fight Night.
They thought he had robbed a deadliest man in this country. Guys who would not hesitate to blow your head off.
This story from Atlanta, Georgia, has been reported for 50 years. But now, for the first time, you're going to hear what really happened from the people who lived it. Binge all the episodes now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, this is Bill Clinton. Please join me on my podcast, Why Am I Telling You This? Why am I telling you this? Why am I telling you this? For conversations with some of the most fascinating people I know. We'll talk about ideas that deserve more attention, about how science, technology, and design are improving our lives, and about why we should be hopeful and optimistic about our future. Listen to Why Am I Telling You This on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
New tracks, new teams, and a new champ. The 2021 NASCAR season starts in just 9 days with the Great American Race, the Daytona 500, February 14th, only on Fox.
Malcolm Jenkins is one of the more accomplished human beings in the NFL. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champ, 12 years, multiple Pro Bowls. He's now a filmmaker and has given Tom Brady more than his share of trouble. He is joining us live to add to his resume. I am told Malcolm is wearing a sports jacket that he made. Come on, tell me, could you give some of us a break in life? What you're literally you're a designer?
Yeah, you know, Demari Seville is my company. I've had it for a while now. It's you know, I enjoy looking nice, and I figured why not design my own clothes.
Yeah, I want to look nice too. I can't design my own stuff. So you faced Brady in a Super Bowl and beat him. And he had, you know, that was a pretty good day for Tom. He lost the game, but had a good day. I think it was only 1 punt in that Super Bowl. And you faced him 3 times this year. So if you had to tell a young safety who had never Malcolm faced Tom, what would you tell him? What would be the little 2 or 3 secrets you'd tell him to have any success against him?
Well, I think you got to know at all times he's reading the safeties. You know, he is very much a advantage cornerback. So if you give him a look, he's going to do what's most advantageous for his defense. So if you're in split safety, you can be ready to get a run. If you're in a down safety, you know he's going to probably pass it. If you've got open gaps in the run and he sees it, you know, he'll do that. And what he'll do is he'll wait, you know, in his hard count, he'll wait in the shot clock to see if you can tip that or not, because he always wants to know where you are. They're going to start with a running back and put him out at receiver and motion him back in just to see if you're a man-to-man. So if you can play with those kind of rules, if you know what he's looking at, you can slow his read down just a little bit post-snap. If you can confuse him with the pre-snap look, but that's going to take a coordination not only from the safety, but from your linebackers, from your D-line. Everybody's got to be on the same page. Otherwise, he'll see what's out of place and know what you're in.
You know, it's interesting. John Elway, Mahomes, and Brady, this is really a weird thing to say, but I always feel like if Aaron Rodgers struggles early or throws a pick, his body language changes. He's not quite as aggressive. Elway, Mahomes, and Brady, I don't know. They could have 4 picks. And it's just the way they don't care. So now that's just me as an observer of football. But I'm watching Tommy throw 3 picks in the second half against Green Bay. He couldn't give a rip. You've had some success against him. Is there I don't know if it's relentlessness. I mean, when you watch Tommy, do you ever feel like in a game you've got his number? Or is it a chess match for 3.5 hours?
Well, I think it's a chess match for 3.5 hours. I think we've seen games where he's gotten behind or teams have gotten after him. Even us with the Saints, we got after him and blew him out one time this year. And in that game, you didn't see him, press. And never did we feel like, okay, we got control of this. You know that he has that gear, and because he's so persistent, that at any point in time, if you let your guard down or let him figure you out, he will come back and make those plays. So it's one of those things you've got to be, always 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps ahead for the entire game, because he is, him being frustrated at an interception is not going to stop him from executing his offense if you allow it.
Now, you faced Mahomes as well. You had some success against Mahomes. Did you feel like when you faced Patrick, okay, he's really talented, but I can fool him a little more, I can manipulate him a little more because of my age and experience advantage?
No, you know what? With Patrick, it's the opposite. You never know what he's going to do. So with Tom, he's going to be 3 yards behind the center, and you know where he's going to be. Patrick Mahomes, they're running shovel passes. Their play design is crazy. They got motions all over the place. They got speed all over the place. And even when you get to him, he's elusive enough to either scramble for a first down or make some guys miss. And once you get off schedule, those plays are very, very hard to defend. And so you're really thinking about being more disciplined when you play a quarterback like Pat Mahomes. Everybody's got to win their matchups. Everybody's got to stay home. You've got to know some of the tips and keys. And then you have to be ready for him to make plays. He's throwing, the angles at which he throws the ball are crazy. You don't see him anywhere else. And he's just going to make plays, and you have to survive those. So it's definitely a different approach for both quarterbacks.
So 39 players on both teams have played in a Super Bowl. That means more than half have not. So I want you to go back to your Super Bowl. Even for a veteran, a cagey guy like you, when you come out of that tunnel, Bill Romanowski once told me, he was in a bunch of them, he said, that first quarter I was in the Super Bowl, I don't remember it. It was just flash bulbs. I lost myself, and all I know, I was in the 3rd series. He goes, I don't even know what happened. So you tell me, Tampa's got a lot of guys who have never been in a Super Bowl, Malcolm. Were you a little on edge first quarter?
So the last time I was in the Super Bowl was my second time around. So I was a little bit, I understood what was going into it. And that's what it comes down to. Can you block out the moment, right? All of the lights and the pressure that surrounds this game and focus on the game. It's the same game that you've been playing. So when I was in my last Super Bowl, those first 3 series, while they're going to be, you're anxious, you're excited, it's going to go fast, but I was able to kind of slow the game down. My first time those first few drives, I don't know what happened. Like, you just get out there, stuff's moving, you come back, you drink some water, and then you're looking at the pages. You don't even remember the plays, and so it's like, so I think the Tampa defense, especially, like, they're going to have to settle down very, very early in this game. And just focus on the things that got them to this place. Taking the ball away, being disruptive on the quarterback, tackling with physicality. Those are the same things that win a Super Bowl, or the same things that have put you in that Super Bowl. And it's just the teams who can focus on those the most, the earliest, that seem to get settled in.
By the way, you faced Bruce Arians many times. You faced Andy Reid multiple times. My gut feeling is Andy Reid's got a lot more motion. That's what I would think. Is that the difference between the two?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Bruce Arians wants to throw it down the field. You'll get those slot formations, max protection looks, take a shot. And then the rest is kind of Tom Brady just playing at the line of scrimmage based off of what the look the defense gives. When you get to Andy Reid and the Chiefs offense and the enemy, you've got motions, you've got shifts, you've got shovel passes, you've got, all kinds of things, runs where you got gap scheme runs, zone runs, speed everywhere. Orbit motion, there's so many things that you've got to deal with that offense that it definitely creates some problems with your eyes. And as soon as your eyes aren't in the right place, you got somebody behind your defense.
Who do you like to win?
It's really hard to bet against Tom Brady in these things, but when I've played both of these teams, what the Kansas City Chiefs present as a unit, from the play calling all the way down to the personnel on the field, it's just really hard to defend and really hard to win. And if their defense plays well, which I expect them to, I see the Kansas City Chiefs winning this one.
By the way, you are a filmmaker of some acclaim now, Oscar-nominated. Contention.
Trying to get Oscar nominated.
Okay,
yeah.
It says here you recently won a film festival. It's on Peacock. It's called Black Boys. It's Black History Month. What's it about?
So it's really just diving into the humanity of Black boys. Oftentimes, we only see kind of the two polar opposites, whether it's the athletes and entertainers or it's the negative stereotypes that we see in the media and news and things like that. And rarely do we ever just dive into the spectrum of humanity of Black boys. And oftentimes it's ignored. And it's reflected as early as our school age. You know, kids go to school, they read literature that doesn't talk about Black heroes. It has white heroes in it. They have less than 2% of educators are Black men. So you can go your entire time in school without seeing a Black man in front of the room. And then what does that just already tell you about yourself when it comes to leadership and things like that? So it's really just diving into that spectrum of humanity of Black boys, putting it on display, and understanding how, as we as a society have to do a better job of not trying to, uplift Black boys, but really just believing that Black boys are worthy and able to just be themselves.
Malcolm, I said this multiple times when there was a lot of players going out publicly with the NFL. I love the manner in which you did it. You weren't trying to win arguments. You were trying to enlighten the league. And I thought you had a professionalism the way you did it that ingratiated yourself to fans, to people of color, to people that you had to often have strong disagreements with. And I just thought you held yourself to a standard that is so redeemable. And you're really a credit to the league, and I love having you on the show. I know you got a lot of options, and you chose us today, and I appreciate that.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, Malcolm Jenkins, a great player, a filmmaker, and he made his own suit. For guys like me, come on, made his own suit. I want to look good, too. I can't make my own suit. Joy Taylor with the news.
No.
Turn on the news.
This is the Herd Line News.
Well, the Chiefs have a chance to be the first back-to-back Super Bowl champions in 16 years this Sunday.
That seems wrong. No, the Patriots didn't do back-to-backs. No.
In a long time. And Andy Reid's teams are especially good when they have a week off, and Travis Kelce says they feel more prepared than ever.
We've had the full game plan in for the past 2 weeks, and we've been able to, get after it in practice. I think just going into a bye week before the actual game, Coach Reid does a great job of just challenging us to make sure that we don't miss a day. We don't miss a snap. We don't miss a rep. And sure enough, I think we're as ready as we've ever been this week.
Yeah, he's 26-5 off a bye. Speaks for itself.
Exactly. That's the best record after a bye for any head coach since byes became standardized in 1990. He's amazing at that, but what is always impressive about Andy Reid is the looseness that they feel. Like, he's so prepared, but it's not like a stiff prepared, like, okay, we're prepared, we're focused, like we know what you have to do. As people ask me all the time, like, do you ever get nervous going on air? I'm like, the only time I ever am nervous about anything is when I'm not prepared.
Same here.
If I don't know what's going on.
Don't make me ad-lib about something.
About something that I don't know what I'm even talking about. Like, that's when I'm in a bad situation. But no, of course not. We do 2 hours of prep call and then do another meeting with our producers. Like, we're very prepared for this. It's like we're coming up here winging it. We make it look natural.
Yes.
That's what they do. That's what they do when you're really prepared. I also have no conviction in my pick whatsoever. The Chiefs winning 38-34. I say that with zero conviction. This is one of those games, it's similar to last year, but I feel like even more this year, where the outcome really is not going to affect me either way emotionally.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping for a good game.
Yeah, I don't want a blowout.
Yeah.
I want a good show Monday.
There's historical implications no matter which way it goes, so I'm just looking forward to a great matchup. So Deshaun Watson is hoping to be out of Houston soon. One rumored landing spot has been with the Raiders. So the honesty broker for America suggested that first.
Me? Thank you, Joy.
But John Gruden is not expecting the Texans to let Deshaun go. He said, I personally look at this as like a fantasy world. They have a new GM who comes from New England. He just went through a year without Brady. I think he has a pretty good idea how important Deshaun is. I don't think there's any way in the world they trade Deshaun. And if they did, the compensation is going to be kind of like the Rams. You have to give up 7 number ones you'll never draft again.
That's funny.
So, well, I mean, he is right about how much you're going to have to give up. Now, not ever drafting again is here's the thing. If you are, and most of these GMs are very intelligent people who understand the game, it's not exactly true that you're never going to draft again, because you can make other trades for other people's draft picks.
That's right.
And move things around. It's not like you're like, okay, it's not like the NBA. You're like, oh, I'm never going to draft in the first round ever again, like 5 years from now.
Yeah.
No. You can make some other moves. You can move some other veteran players around and get draft picks if that's even what you need. Now, obviously, you need some draft, but you're not going to never draft in the first round again. There's ways to move around that. Yeah. And you're talking about Deshaun Watson. Like, depending on where he goes, you are in immediate Super Bowl contention. If he goes to the Colts, you are, which, you know, I'm saying
anywhere he goes outside of the Jets. Anywhere. Yes. I mean, the Colts.
I mean, Carolina, I think.
Boy, he'd make him good. I think Carolina would be scary. McCaffrey and those receivers.
I don't know if it's... I think we'd need another year before they're in Super Bowl contention. Like, they're definitely going to make the playoffs and make some noise. But, I mean, he's really that good. Yeah. Again, also... Kareem Jackson said he's spoken to Watson a couple times, and Watson is interested in landing with the Broncos, so it's all kind of the same division.
By the way, I love the Broncos skill people.
No, I think he'd be great there.
Yeah, Denver's got good tight ends, good backs, good receivers. Denver's not a bad spot at all.
No, I like it. So the Cowboys are back in the same position they were last offseason with Dak Prescott in this contract situation. Never in the history of my career have I talked more about someone's contract than Dak Prescott.
And he still hasn't signed it.
And we get to this point of fatigue with it, and then it's like, nope, start that over. We got to talk about it again. He's a free agent, obviously wants a long-term deal, and Carson Palmer thinks that Dak should be willing to take less money to help out the team.
Being the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, there's a lot that comes with that financially. So you don't have to be the top-paid quarterback in the league. They're a household name. You've seen Dak on tons of commercials and endorsements. You know, you can make that same top-tier money if you're Dak and you take a little bit less. You know, you can keep Zeke Elliott and you can keep all the players around you because those guys can get re-signed within the salary cap structure.
That was always my argument for D. Wade, is that if I get Pat Riley and I keep getting a Shaq and this and that, I'm in a state with no state tax, the most attractive free agent market. I'm not saying, guys, take what you want to take, but there was a point where D. Wade had made his money. Pat Riley was giving him such good players. I was like, you can make an argument when you get with these kind of iconic franchises in states with no state tax, where you get, D. Wade had at one point like 8 commercials running.
Well, and he did take less money. They all took less money. So Ron, Bosch, and Wade took less money to play together.
Yeah, so there are moments, there are times, Brady, a prime example, where, I can get a left tackle and an elite corner if I take...
because once you get to a certain threshold,
and
you've won a title, you have your accomplishments in place. What is the difference between making $40 million and $35 million? Now, that's easy for us to say, but there's other ways you can make up that money. Like, you're never going to make up that money, but you can get to that number that you want through outside sources. Here's the problem. Dak Prescott hasn't been paid, and he hasn't won a championship. And he was great, depending on your opinion of him, we'll call it good to make everyone comfortable, for his rookie contract. And they had the flexibility to do all of that.
Yeah.
And they didn't win. So if I'm Dak Prescott, you got to show me the money. Like, I'm on his side. Now, again, I don't know how I would do it if I was in his situation, so I'm not going to count other people's pockets. I probably would take less money because I would want to win championships and be a little bit flexible. And, like, what is less money? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's deals you can work out, to Carson's point. It's going to cost $37.7 million to franchise tag Dak Prescott this upcoming season. He made $31.4 last season. Carson will also be on the show at 2:15 Eastern, so
good stuff. Enjoy
as well.
Enjoy the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
Eric Mangini's got 3 rings, joins us next, The Herd.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, three-time Pro Bowler LeVar Arrington, and I couldn't be more excited to announce a new podcast called Up on Game. What is Up on Game, you ask? Along with my fellow Pro Bowler, the man, long hair, Mr. Prince Charming himself, TJ Hushmanzada, and Stretch Armstrong, Super Bowl champion. Yep, that's right. Plexico Burris. Did you hear that? LeVar Arrington, TJ Hushmanzada, Plexico Burris, all on one show? Sheesh. You can only name a show with that type of talent on it. Up on Game. We're going to be sharing our real-life experiences, our real-life stories, people, loaded with teachable moments. That's the key. This show will break the mold and create a new way of thinking about athletes and sports topics. Listen to Up on Game with me, LeVar Arrington, TJ Hushmanzada, and Plexico Burris on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. Tune in, people!
America, are you listening?
Emmy award-winning host and journalist Carlos Watson.
It may not feel like it, but we've been here before, and it's up to us to lead the way.
Resetting America, the Carlos Watson Show. The LA Times says this is what true discussions should look like.
If we're gonna do bold things, we've gotta have bold conversations.
Good Morning America says this show is changing the conversation.
If we're ever gonna reset America, the time is now. Subscribe to the Carlos Watson Show on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Eric Mangini won 3 Super Bowls for the Patriots. He is now joining us live from Ohio. I want to talk about this game we've got Sunday. Let's start with this, Eric, Fox Sports NFL analyst. The Chiefs' offensive line has injuries. That concerns me. Will it be a major problem for the Chiefs, in your opinion?
Well, it's only going to be a major problem if Tampa Bay does some things differently than they did the last time they played. This whole offense, Colin, is based off of timing and spacing, and there's quick answers on every single play. So unless they do something to disrupt those wide receivers, it's not really going to matter from a defensive line standpoint or an offensive line standpoint. They gotta create some time for those defensive linemen to get there. I'd say the second thing is the D line's got to keep him in the pocket. And I've talked about this over and over again. They'll rush up the field and they create those lanes. And I know he's dealing with injuries and the concussion and all those things. But the Super Bowl, that doesn't matter. And I'd say the last thing is they've got to create some kind of confusion pre-snap so that he just doesn't know where to go with the ball right away. Those things have to change for that defensive line to really take advantage of Kansas City's O-line.
So Brady's never been a good first quarter Super Bowl quarterback. You were with him in 3 of those. Is it by design? Was Belichick more conservative, or was Tom anxious? He didn't play well early in Super Bowls.
No, I can promise you it was not by design. We wanted to score as much as we could, as early as we could. But a lot of those Super Bowls, there's so much emotion leading up to it. The pregame isn't what you're used to. Guys can be emotionally hijacked. Everybody's feeling their way through it. It makes a lot of sense for it to be low scoring, because it takes a little while for everybody to realize, hey, this is just what we've been doing all along. Just settle down and start playing, and that's when the points start coming on.
I believe Brady. I don't think Mahomes needs a running game to succeed Sunday. I think Tom does. Do you agree or disagree?
I absolutely agree. The fact that they've committed more to the run later in the season and in the postseason has been a huge part of what's helped them. And look, Kansas City beat Tom up with pressure the last time they played. And you look at those 2 picks that he had in the second half, and those were both pressure related. If you can run the ball some and slow those guys down and create some variety of your attack, that's going to help Tom significantly.
You know, Brady, instant success. You bring Brady in, he gets to a Super Bowl. Do you think it'll change the quarterback market where there'll be more movement? They won't be sacred cows anymore. Quarterbacks will be like everybody else. Trade them if they help you win tomorrow.
Well, it works both ways. You also don't want to be the team that trades your guy and he goes somewhere else and gets a Super Bowl. That's incredibly frustrating. And you're seeing it with the young guys
with how well Ryan Tannehill has done in Tennessee. And then you had Peyton Manning. Really, the Colts should have kept him an extra year, even when they had Andrew Luck, and he goes somewhere else. Now Tom has the success he has. When I had Brett Favre, we were doing pretty well until he got dinged up. Now, paying the price that the Rams just paid for Matt Stafford, we're gonna have to see whether or not that's close to being worthwhile.
Yeah, there's a lot of picks they gave up. So when you give the pocket, Brady's the last pocket passer in this league that wins big. But there's a lot of pocket guys, Stafford and Matt Ryan and Goff and Cousins, and they win. They win a lot. 19 of 21 quarterbacks that have won the Super Bowl have been pocket guys. Russell Wilson, Mahomes move more. If you had a chance today, I think it's rule-based, but if you had a chance to get a pure pocket guy or a guy that moved a lot, how do you delineate the two? Like, as a football guy, as the rules have changed, how do you look at mobility for a quarterback?
Well, we used to always talk about the idea of when the whole world knows that you have to pass, can you still throw the ball? And those are those moments where you're behind and it becomes a pure pocket passer type game. And there's a ton of value in those guys. And you want your guys to be able to move some to protect themselves. But if I had a choice between an RPO quarterback and a pocket passer, you take the passer every time. And look, RPOs are fashionable, and there's been some production, but the more times your quarterback gets hit, the more times you expose him to injury, it's just bad business over the long haul.
Yeah. By the way, a year ago today, we were talking about a very cryptic Tom Brady image. It was that picture, the Hulu commercial, where is he leaving, is he going, is he changing? I said this before. Mahomes wins, the league wins, Andy Reid wins, the Hunt family wins. If Tampa wins, Tom wins, and Belichick doesn't look so good. There's a little vengefulness. Are you sad that Tom left? Do you think it could have been saved if Belichick gives up the personnel to somebody else and they can finally draft wide receivers? As somebody that was part of it, how do you look at Tom leaving today?
I don't even think it was a function of giving up the personnel or not giving up the personnel. In any relationship, when you've been together for 20 years, and remember, Tom was this young guy that was developed and then became a superstar, but it happens. You grow out of relationships. And one thing that Bill Belichick has done consistently well over the course of the 20 years is move on from guys before other people would have moved on from him. And he hasn't really been hurt by that over time. And he made a executive decision that in retrospect hasn't been what he hoped it would be, but it's hard to fault him based on his track record. Would I have liked to see Tom again in New England this year? Would I think it would have been significantly better? Yeah, of course I would have, and I wanted him to finish there. But it really is hard when you look at Bill to say that he's made a lot of poor decisions in the area moving on from personnel.
Yeah. And by the way, I think he wanted Tom. Tom's the one that knocked on his door and said, I'm not coming back. It wasn't like Bill said hit the road. Tom told Kraft.
I don't know about that. It felt a little bit like Tom wanted to be there and it was unrequited love. And maybe it was unrequited love at $50 million. Maybe, at $15 million, that love would have been there.
All right. Eric, good seeing you. Enjoy the game. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care.
Valentine's Day's coming. Add the wow factor. 1-800-FLOWERS right now. 18 red roses, $39.99, or upgrade to 24 red roses, $10 more. Go to 1-800-FLOWERS.com, radio icon, enter the code HERD, HERD. I love that picture. I love that little Tom Brady photo. We were all in a frenzy. We didn't know what to do with that picture. Where's he going?
It's very, very well done.
It was very smart.
Zooming in. Is his foot going forward? Is it going backwards?
Is he coming at us, or is he
going? Yeah, you really can't tell. The angle of the knee bend is so good. It was really well done.
He's crafty.
Super Bowl commercials
they were great last year. It was a great year for commercials.
It's a time for creatives to thrive.
Yep, it is. Cremo Barber Shave Cream. I take it, fights the burn. Get it at Amazon, major retailers, or cremocompany.com. CREMO. Stuff is great. Carson Palmer, Jason McIntyre's predictions last hour.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on demand whenever you like.
America, are you listening?
Emmy award-winning host and journalist Carlos Watson.
It may not feel like it, but we've been here before, and it's up to us to lead the way.
Resetting America, the Carlos Watson Show. The LA Times says this is what true discussions should look like.
If we're going to do bold things, we've got to have bold conversation.
Good Morning America says this show is changing the conversation.
If we're ever going to reset America, the time is now. Subscribe to the Carlos Watson Show on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, three-time Pro Bowler LeVar Arrington, and I couldn't be more excited to announce a new podcast called Up on Game. What is Up on Game, you ask? Along with my fellow Pro Bowler, TJ Hushmanzada, and Super Bowl champion, yep, that's right, Plexico Burris. You can only name a show with that type of talent on it. Up on Game. We're going to be sharing our real-life experiences loaded with teachable moments. Listen to Up on Game with me, LeVar Arrington, TJ Hushmanzada, and Plexico Burris on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Terry Bradshaw is giving away another $250,000 in the Super 6 Super Bowl contest this weekend. Download the free Fox Super 6 app and make your picks for your chance to win. All you need to do is pick 6 outcomes in the Super Bowl. One of the questions is, which team will win and by how many points? Colin, you gave your pick earlier, which is
31-24 Kansas City. I say that with very little conviction because the weather's going to be lousy and because I'm worried to death. Eric Fisher, left tackle, Kansas City out, Mitchell Schwartz out, and I'm telling you that defensive front for the Bucs, Shaq Barrett and Vitavia and JPP and Todd Bowles is super smart and blitzes a lot. So I can, the one thing I'll say about that Green Bay Tampa game, when I watched, I think I told you this, the first 10 minutes of that game from my television set, you could hear how hard Tampa was hitting. Tampa wants to ugly this thing up. Tampa wants they want this thing to be physical and look like a UFC octagon fight. Kansas City wants to stay, they want to drop back, some deep vertical stuff, so I'm going to take the Chiefs, but we could have many outcomes. By the way, life-changing sleep, Casper Mattress, go to Casper.com. Casper Mattresses, 86 supportive gel pods. Nobody else does that. Carson Palmer's the former Pro Bowler, 15 years, 3 Pro Bowls, 3 playoff appearances in 15 years, and he's moved to an undisclosed location. I know where it's at, and I'm not telling anybody, but he's a lucky guy. He's already skied and worked out and had a good day today. So, we talk about this all the time, Carson, that your career is different if you get Belichick and Tommy gets Cincinnati. We know that. That's true. We know that Matt Stafford has a career from Detroit. It'll look a lot better in Los Angeles. I want to start with something, the Deshaun Watson situation. You were vocal and said enough is enough. Where do you land with Deshaun Watson? Because Tommy, it took him 20 years to be a free agent before he could choose. Mahomes, he's got it perfect. He wouldn't want to leave. Where do you stand on Deshaun Watson, who now is saying, there's too much dysfunction, I want out of here?
Yeah, I can't speak to his exact reasonings. I haven't had a conversation with him, but to me, it sure looks like he's going, man, I've been here for a handful of years. I've given it everything I've gotten. I've played great football. I only have, another 4 or 5 years in my prime of my best football. And my best football with the Texans organization doesn't equate to Super Bowl wins. And he is chasing a Super Bowl win, just like every other quarterback in the league. So I'm sure it sure looks to me like he's just tired of the dysfunction, tired of making the head coach, who is also the offensive play caller, the GM also. I'm sure he wants some sort of foundational organization that knows what they're doing and has been doing and having success for a long time. And, at the same time, the grass isn't always greener. And in order for him to get out of Houston and go somewhere else, they're going to have to give up a lot of draft capital.
and maybe too much draft capital to overcome and win that first Super Bowl that he's seeking.
Yeah, that's a great point. That was the Carmelo Anthony trade with the Denver Nuggets, is that the Knicks had to give up so much to get Carmelo. By the time Carmelo got there, he was the only player on the team. So to your point, you worry about that. So I want to talk about Brady. So Brady in New England at the end. Carson, he had nothing. He didn't have a functional tight end. Gronk had retired. They don't have a number 1 or a number 2 receiver. Then he goes to Tampa, where Scotty Miller's is 5. And it's weird. It was almost like it was a buffet. The first couple of months, it's like, okay, who do I have relationships here with? When you were watching him this year, the turbulence, do you think some of it was, this team had so many weapons, how do you divvy it up?
Well, he absolutely knew what he was doing. I mean, Brady is obviously no dummy. He knew his contract was expiring in New England and just went out and found the most talented roster. He knew he was turning 43. He knew he doesn't quite have that same bounce in the pocket in his legs. He knew he didn't have that same velocity he had at 27. He was going to need guys that can take a 5-yard pass and go 80. And he found that. He found the best roster, no doubt about it. He was tired of his number 1 target being Edelman, who's a great player, but Edelman is a slot receiver. Edelman is very easy to double in the middle of the field. So he simply found the best roster, went and made that roster even better.
Mahomes is obviously a special talent, but Andy Reid is such a clever play designer. And, I mean, we all know that Mahomes is talented, but he had a losing record in college. He got to the NFL. He's a better pro quarterback than a college quarterback. Tell me what playing with a more clever play designer is like. Go to your career, the most, progressive play designer. Does it challenge you? Can it be hard initially? Is it more of an encyclopedic knowledge you have to have? Especially Mahomes as a kid. Are you surprised he's adapted to it so well early?
I think it's more about the play caller's delivery of how to run and execute each play. And in saying that, there's so many young coaches in the league right now, Matt LaFleur and McVay, and there's so many analytical ways of coaching and controlling games. They all run similar plays, similar schematic design. Some of them are telling you, like Bruce Arians, hey, look deep first, throw the 80-yard touchdown. It's really hard to go 80 yards on 14 plays in today's day and age against these defenses. So it's not so much the schematic design, it's the way that the quarterback and the offensive players are being taught to run that play. There's so many coaches, especially these young coaches, that just want to hang around and have a chance to win it at the end of the game. But these 2 coaches on Sunday, both these guys, Andy and Bruce, they're trying to win the game. They're going to go after that win. They're not going to play defensively and hold on until the end. They're going to attack. And some of those schematic designs of the plays they're calling, they're designed to throw the ball deep downfield over people's heads, not looking for easy completions underneath for 5- and 6-yard gains.
Carson Palmer joining us, 15 years, multiple Pro Bowls, already a college football Hall of Famer. If you look at Pro Football Focus, which I do a lot for the grading of offensive linemen, I can figure out who can quarterback and receivers and tight ends, but their offensive line stuff, and the grading's interesting. They took the top 15 players in this game, and the Chiefs had a lot of them in the top 4. And then, Carson, it was like 6 through 15. It was all Tampa guys. So my deeper roster is Tampa. My stars are mostly Kansas City. In games you've played in your career, would you rather have 10 of the 15 best players or the 3 best players as teammates?
Depth. I mean, I want depth. I want a swing tackle that in case Eric Fisher goes down, we've got a guy we're paying $4 or $5 million that's a vet that can play both sides of the ball, left and right tackle. Stars are great, and stars are fun, and they're exciting. But when I look at this matchup, I'm looking more at what guys have defensively, and I like Tampa in this matchup because of the lateral speed that they have. And I like that because that's what Kansas City does. Kansas City tries to outflank you with McCall Hardman coming in motion and Tyreek Hill coming in motion, and they're running screens and they're handing the ball off to them. Well, Tampa's got, as you said earlier, that their front 7 is phenomenal. But they've got 2 of the fastest linebackers in Devin White and Levante David in the league. So they can run with that lateral speed. They can cover you sideline to sideline. 95% of the teams that Kansas City played this year did not have that kind of athleticism and speed. So I look at depth. I want deep. I want to be able to lose a guy and not feel like our season is hinging upon that because we have this guy that's been waiting in the wings and just waiting for his opportunity to play, and here it is. So I look at depth, and you're spot on. I mean, Tampa absolutely has depth.
Yeah. Carson Palmer joining us. It's I always liked Belichick and I always liked Brady. But what bothered me was, at the end of Tommy in New England, it really bothered me when I started seeing stuff leaked to ESPN, the magazine, where people in New England were saying, we can win with a lot of guys. And I was like, okay, time out. Okay, come on. That bothered me. And then I watched Tom versus Time, and Giselle, his wife, says at one point, he just liked to walk into the building and feel appreciated. So I got to be honest with you, Carson. I'm rooting for Tom on this divorce. I don't like the leaks. I think sometimes corporations don't, football corporations don't quite get the players, and that's all a team is, a collection of players. When this thing broke up, are you surprised by how it's ended? Were you rooting for one side or another?
It's always an ugly ending. There's no pretty, sweet, sensitive send-off. There is no doubt in my mind that Brady wants his seventh ring, but he wants to be able to go back to New England and be on the upper Northeast. And everybody realized, hey, it wasn't Belichick, it was Brady. I mean, that's what Brady's playing for. If Brady wins this Super Bowl, it's just a fact. It was Brady. And Belichick is great, and I'm not taking away from Belichick. I played against Belichick many times, and he had me confused and pissed off at stuff he was doing defensively. I'm not saying he's not a great head coach and a brilliant defensive coordinator, but there's no doubt if Brady wins this Super Bowl, I'm already edging that way right now. Just the fact that Tom's been to the Super Bowl literally every other year of his career. But if he wins this Super Bowl, I think it's the point is made that was Brady. Brady was the Patriot way, not Belichick.
Do you ever have any, bitterness is the wrong word because you're a happy guy, but just part of you? Because I always say I would be, if I thought I was talented as a broadcaster, and I never felt I got great support. I've been very fortunate, I have. But if I didn't, it would keep me awake at night. Maybe my ego or something. In your career, you're the guy that every GMO says, oh, come on, if Carson Palmer showed up there, and if you trade it, you're always the guy they use. And maybe now that you're gone at Stafford or whatever. But if you ever thought to yourself, just one night over a beer with friends, God, I would have liked Sean McVay for a few years or Andy Reid. Does that ever creep in?
It's impossible not to. Just like it's impossible for Brady not to really want this Super Bowl to prove his doubters wrong. But no doubt, I mean, I'm a firm believer, I've seen it firsthand, that your career as a quarterback is completely dependent upon the organization you play for. And great players can overcome poorly run organizations. But in every sport, great organizations tend to always be around the playoff talk. They show up in Super Bowls. And poorly run organizations tend to not be in the playoffs very often. And so I do think that a quarterback's career and legacy is very tightly intertwined with the success and the way that an organization is run.
All right. When's the last time you grabbed a football and threw it?
I was in Lake Tahoe playing in the celebrity golf tournament in Lake Tahoe, and I was actually playing well. I was like in the top 10. I hadn't thrown a football in 2 years, and Larry Fitzgerald comes up to me. He's like, "Hey man, I need to run routes. We got training camp starting next week." And I'm like, "Fitz, I'm gonna tear my tricep and my bicep in half if I go out and throw a football." But he kept wearing on me, and I went out and threw, in golf shoes, literally my golf spikes, to him on a high school football field up in Lake Tahoe. And I actually spun it a lot better than I thought. And then I asked him after I got done, so I was like, is it coming off my hand much different than Kyler's hand? Like, where do I rest? He's like, "No, you could be our third stringer, maybe our practice squad guy for sure." And that, as soon as he said that, confidence went down the roof, and I iced my arm, and I was in like 10th place in the tournament, and my arm was so sore for the final day of the tournament that I went out and shot like 88 because I could barely move.
See? Yeah, he just broke you up. You felt so good about yourself, and then he dropped that scout team thing, and boom, you were done.
Ego shot.
Boom, over. Great talking to you, Carson. Love having you on the show, man, and you just enjoy your winter.
Thanks, Colin. Be well, buddy.
All right, Carson Palmer. Good dude. He was the last great USC quarterback. I mean, Darnold was good. We always said this. I've had GMs say this before. They always use Carson. They're always like, listen, man, you need help. And they're always like, everybody in the league knows. Carson came out. He looked through, talked, walked, ran. He was the star quarterback.
We just talked about it earlier, how hard it is to find talent in football. There's a lot of moving parts.
Well, you said it. From 2000 to 2017, the number one high school quarterback, starts in the NFL, Matt Stafford, never won a playoff game. What is that? As you said, you need a lot of help.
A lot of parts in football.
Andrew Luck was the next Elway. He's out of the game.
It's not even just talent. Like, you have to have the coach in place. You have to have the organization in place. Like, the Texans have had a lot of talent. A lot of talent.
Not in the offensive line. They had a left tackle, let him go, got another one, gave up a bunch of draft picks. Supplement I take every day, powerful, backed by science. Go to mdriveformen.com today. Free shipping, 60-day money-back guarantee. Don't let age define you.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
The Death and Life of Kobe Bryant is a limited series podcast that looks back at the investigation of the crash a year ago that killed the basketball superstar, his daughter, and 7 others.
LA County Fire, 83.
Helicopter crashed into a mountain. We heard it, and now I'm looking at the flames. The Death and Life of Kobe Bryant takes a different look at one of the biggest tragedies of 2020.
NBA star Kobe Bryant was on board that helicopter.
Kobe Bryant died earlier this afternoon in Los Angeles in a helicopter crash. News reports are just coming in.
The Death and Life of Kobe Bryant includes exclusive content and a look at the legacy number 24 leaves behind.
He never wanted to rest on the laurels of, hey, I'm just a sports star. Anything that he was going to put his name to, anything he was going to help with, he and Vanessa were going to give it their all.
Listen to The Death and Life of Kobe Bryant on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, 3-time Pro Bowler LeVar Arrington, and I couldn't be more excited to announce a new podcast called Up On Game. What is Up On Game, you ask? Along with my fellow Pro Bowler, the man, long hair, Mr. Prince Charming himself, TJ Hushmanzada, and Stretch Armstrong, Super Bowl champion. Yep, that's right. Plexico Burress. Did you hear that? LeVar Arrington, TJ Hushmanzada, Plexico Burress, all on one show? Sheesh. You can only name a show with that type of talent on it. Up On Game. We're going to be sharing our real-life experiences, our real-life stories, people, loaded with teachable moments. That's the key. This show will break the mold and create a new way of thinking about athletes and sports topics. Listen to Up On Game with me, LeVar Arrington, TJ Hushmanzada, and Plexico Burress on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. Tune in, people! Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Washington will be looking to improve at quarterback this offseason. GM Martin Mayhew and VP of Player Personnel Marty Herney were asked about the team's plans for the position. They praised both Alex Smith and Taylor Heineke, but also noted they will be looking at that position very thoroughly. They said the team will be smart and aggressive in finding a quarterback without mortgaging their future.
I'll say Sam Darnold is a wild card here. We did this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because I couldn't remember who you said.
It was Sam Darnold. So Alex Smith they worry about health. Heineke's an athlete, but not real big. He's not a very big guy. Darnold gives them the athleticism of Heineke. Few more starting snaps like Alex Smith. He's got kind of the personality of I tend to think Rivera wants somebody, he looks at that division, and he wants Alex Smith commitment with Heineke's pop.
Mobility.
And that feels like Darnold. Maturity, with a little pop athletically.
I think that'd be a great place for Sam Darnold.
Well, and we know it's a good coach.
Yes,
like a
and
grown-up.
they took a significant step up this year. Obviously, you had the situation with Dwayne Haskins, but Rivera has completely changed the culture there. Washington's had 8 different head coaches, 10 if you include interims, and 23 different starting quarterbacks since Dan Snyder purchased the team in 1999. They have the 19th pick in the draft.
And they got the defensive front solved.
Defensive side of the ball is solved.
They have a young receiver.
I like Washington. This situation in Washington is why the Eagles situation is like so laughable to me. Like, this division is not going to be. Don't think about the NFC East the way it was this year. No, forget it. Just erase it from your mind.
This morning, I would do Washington wins it, Dallas second, Giants third, Eagles fourth. Yeah, I could have turned that 2 years ago, but that's what I would do today.
So no one could have expected how much success Patrick Mahomes has had this early in his career. He'll have a chance to build on his legacy if he wins his second straight Super Bowl this weekend. And Chiefs CEO Clark Hunt thinks he could be the team's very own Michael Jordan.
It's amazing the success that Patrick has had so early in his career. I mean, really, more so than Michael Jordan had early in his career. It took Michael a few years before he won his first championship, and Patrick in year one had us on the cusp of making the Super Bowl. I think everybody felt that Patrick was going to take some time to develop. Of course, he's turned the table on all that, and shown to be one of the best ever to play the position only 4 years into his young career.
It's got to be a nice feeling to have Patrick Mahomes on your team.
And by the way, Brady is sitting there. He said, hey, guys, they think he's Michael Jordan. Hey, guys, Chris Jones says dynasty. You know what Brady's doing? He's using all this and going, they got the game won. They don't think they're going to lose it.
He's doing the Patriot move.
Oh, I guarantee you Brady's going.
Everybody.
Well, Michael went 6 for 6. Guys, they already think they've won this game.
I think there's not really a lot of bulletin board material in this situation because you got to respect Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and Andy.
Everybody likes him.
Everybody likes them, and you have to respect them.
But
they won. They have a chance to repeat here. Yeah. So it's not like they're like, oh, they've never been here before, and then we're comparing them to Tom Brady.
But they got one. I'd slow down on the MJ talk, maybe.
Listen. If you got Patrick Mahomes on your team, you're feeling great. So I get it. I think that, yes, Tom Brady is the better comparison at this point to Michael Jordan. But, there's really not a lot of animosity in this weekend's game.
I hope weather's not a huge factor.
I do, too. I don't like when weather affects the game.
I don't mind a little rain, but don't give me, I lived in Tampa. I don't recall it being, we get a lot of rain. We didn't get a lot of wind.
It rains every single day in South Florida.
Yeah.
But we talk about weather playing a factor. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of snow. We were worried about that in Lambeau. And a lot of players say that the snow isn't the cold isn't really the problem unless it's 20 below zero.
Yeah.
But the rain does actually affect it. When it's slick out there, that is what makes it more difficult for offenses. So I hope that it's all clear. So Urban Meyer took his first job in the NFL this year as the head coach of the Jaguars. And running back James Robinson can't wait to get to work with him. He said, I've talked to him a few times. He seems pretty cool. Excited to work with all of us. I think all of us are excited to have him and see what he brings to practices, games, and all of that, and see what he likes to do.
Well, if I was an offensive guy, I'd love him because Urban's a really clever offensive guy. You saw him here on the kickoff show we'd have here at noon. He's a play diagrammer. He's an offensive guy. The two things Urban knows, offense and personnel. And then he'll hire somebody on the defensive side, take care of it.
I'm not really exhilarated by any of the hires
in
this hiring
How about none
cycle except for Urban, and I'm really interested to see what Robert Saleh does in New York.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I thought it was a great year for candidates and a lousy year for hiring. I do think Urban, Phil Jackson did this. People always banged on Phil Jackson. Yeah, he comes back for Shaq and Kobe. He does the Jordan thing and he retires. I'm done. He cherry picks a great job.
That's what happens when you've established yourself like Urban. You get to choose the best jobs. You get to choose your situation and your path, and you get to be patient. And it's similar to why, Eric Bieniemy, obviously, his name is in the top candidates every year. If these teams want to keep passing on you, wait for the perfect situation.
That's right. And this is perfect. Urban's knows the area, gets a quarterback, cap space, and
it's Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence.
In a winnable division.
They're still evaluating what they're going to do there.
They're evaluating nothing. The new socks for the uniforms are evaluating more than their pick. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
Jason McIntyre's got his picks next.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
From iHeartRadio and Doghouse Pictures, this is Fight Night.
They thought he had robbed the deadliest man in this country. Guys who would not hesitate to blow your head off.
This story from Atlanta, Georgia, has been reported for 50 years. But now, for the first time, you're going to hear what really happened from the people who lived it. Binge all the episodes now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, this is Bill Clinton. Please join me on my podcast, Why Am I Telling You This? Why am I telling you this? Why am I telling you this? For conversations with some of the most fascinating people I know. We'll talk about ideas that deserve more attention, about how science, technology, and design are improving our lives, and about why we should be hopeful and optimistic about our future. Listen to Why Am I Telling You This on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, Jason Mackern Tire joins me on Friday every Friday at this time. And he makes his predictions. He's a former newspaper guy, and he tries to predict what the headlines will be tomorrow. And he is now joining us live, customary on our show. He does Fox Sports Radio, Saturday, 10 to 1 Eastern. All right, here we go. Very excited because you've had. How have you done in the playoffs, by the way? I thought the Packers would beat Tampa. Otherwise, I was okay.
Yeah, I was 3-1 last weekend. I had Packers as well, but the prop bets, by the way, which are like 60% of the handle at the Super Bowl, I'm locked and loaded. I wrote a column for Fox Sports this week. 9 prop bets, Colin. I'm thinking 7-2, probably, maybe 8-1. We'll see.
All right, here we go. Tomorrow's headlines today. What's the headline going to be for the Chiefs on Monday?
Yeah, very excited in Kansas City, right? They got to see their team all week. The headline will be Country Roads, take Mahomes to a place. Right back to the podium, Colin. I like the Chiefs going back-to-back. I know you like my musical references. Yeah. My wife is shuddering in the next room, by the way. I just think this is a Kansas City team. Believe it or not, Colin, they feel a little disrespected. I know that's crazy to say, but so many people like Tampa in this game. I just want to remind people, okay? Tampa Bay is going against a Chiefs team that's won 25 of 27. You know, we've all heard Andy Reid with an extra week off, 26-6. I've joked this season that they have been so dominant in the first half that they play with their food in the second half and let teams back in the game. Colin, how's this one for you? They faced 6 playoff teams this year, right? 4 in the regular season, 2 in the playoffs. Kansas City in the first half has outscored those 6 teams 114-48. In a big game, they come out and blow the doors off the Ravens, the Bills, whoever it is, Miami, all the good teams. They just crush them. And we're kind of like, talking down about the Chiefs. I'm telling you, this is the best team in the league. They win the Super Bowl handily, Colin.
Tomorrow's headlines today. What's the headline going to be for the Buccaneers on Monday?
This is a tough one because I do like this Tampa team. I just think they're criminally overrated. Sorry, folks. The headline will be, Bucks walk the plank. I might be the only guy in America that thinks Tampa Bay could get blown out at home. Colin, I know people are excited, right, for Tampa Bay. They get to host the Super Bowl. I just want to remind everybody what they've done in the playoffs. So in the first round, they face a 7-9 Washington team. Ron Rivera is starting their 4th-string quarterback. I think they got him off the Wall Street Bets Reddit forum, okay? That guy was a 4th-string quarterback, and they win that game. Then they play the Saints. New Orleans, Drew Brees vomits all over himself. 3 interceptions, then the Jared Cook fumble. Tampa's longest touchdown drive in that game was 40 yards, okay? It was a kind of a lucky win. And then you look at the Packers game, and we talked about this, between the Devontae Adams drop touchdown, the end of the half, just a complete meltdown by the Packers, especially at the end, too. This has been a charmed playoff run for Tampa. They had a great season. They'll probably be back here next year, but I do believe they get smoked at home.
Tomorrow's headlines today, MVP of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, there's a strong correlation between a high point total historically in the Super Bowl and the quarterback getting the award. The headline will be Mahomes schooling. And I know you like that, very timely, of course. Both my kids home today from school because it's California. I digress. This is a guy, Colin, we've never seen anything like this, okay? Just remember, 3 years in the league as a starter. He went MVP of the league, Super Bowl, and Super Bowl MVP. and I think he's going to get another one. Colin, we'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, but Patrick Mahomes, we've never seen this in the history of football. Patrick Mahomes is doing some crazy things, and what I love about the guy is he never gets rattled, right? He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. He doesn't fumble the ball. He doesn't make bad decisions. His processing and his reads are incredible. You going to take away Tyreek Hill and Kelsey? That's fine. I'll hand off. I'm not greedy. I'll take what you give me. Patrick Mahomes, just unbelievable. 6-1 in the playoffs. I think he makes it 7-1 and wins the MVP.
Tomorrow's headlines today. What's the headline for Tommy Brady on Monday?
Yeah, Tom Brady, listen, man. Unbelievable season. Obviously a great career. The headline will be Brady bunch of interceptions. Now, I found a quirky stat, Colin. When you have 2 weeks to dig around the numbers. Tom Brady has had 5 multiple game interceptions this season. 5.
Yeah.
The last 3 years he spent in New England, he had 5. For whatever reason, the interceptions come in bunches. This is a prop bet I gave out, by the way, on my podcast, Straight Fire. Over 1.5 interceptions for the game. I think it's easy money. Brady has been known to cough it up in bunches with this new team, new playbook.
Yeah.
Byron Leftwich, the OC, don't love that guy. But I think Brady has a tough one. But no worries. They're going to be back very good, strong next year in Tampa.
Tomorrow's headlines today. Finally, headline for Patrick Mahomes on Monday.
I can't say enough good things about this guy. The headline will be from 10th pick to top 10. Colin, I'm ready. I think Monday morning, you're going to come on the herd and say, man, McIntyre nailed it. Patrick Mahomes is already a top 10 quarterback all time in the NFL. I ran down this list on my podcast, and I'm telling you, man, Colin, Mahomes is going to have a case with the second Super Bowl.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of quarterbacks who have 2 Super Bowl rings, okay? I think he's going to fall past Dan Marino, and people are going to get very outraged. I got a lot of hate mail on Twitter. We need to look at the numbers and look at what Patrick Mahomes has done. And Colin, I don't want to hear this. Well, he's got Andy Reid. Okay? Colin, what was Andy Reid before he got Pat Mahomes? A guy who was very good in Philly, but lost 3 straight NFC title games. Lost in the Super Bowl when McNabb was horrible there down the stretch. Like, Andy Reid has been elevated by Mahomes. They work so well together. Colin, I'm telling you, Patrick Mahomes, just strap in, folks. He's 25 years old, and he could already have 2 Super Bowl rings with one on Sunday.
Good stuff, Jason McIntyre, Straight Fire with Jason McIntyre on iHeartRadio. Good seeing you. Have a great weekend, buddy.
You too.
By the way, all great quarterbacks had good coaches. Belichick, Montana, Fouts, had Coryell, Aikman, Jimmy Johnson, Big Ben, Bradshaw. You got to slow down on...
Marino also had a pretty good coach.
Yeah, Don Still was pretty good. For joining everybody, we'll see you Monday.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on demand whenever you like.
I'm doing my podcast. I'll call you back. My name is Rita Kay.
I am Ellen Bernstein-Grodsky.
This is Call Your Grandmother. What's the matter with you, Ellen? You're laughing.
She said to say it quickly. It is a podcast about the relationship between grandmothers and grandchildren. As my mother would have said, Taka. Who wouldn't have wanted a Jewish grandmother?
Is there anything from your childhood that you'd say you miss?
Yeah, being young.
Do you ever see a kid doing jump rope? Never.
I see him all the time. What are you talking about?
Where?
In the park.
It's like a girl waiting for a boyfriend. My heart skips beats when she calls me.
Sometimes she accidentally live streams. We're like, who's gonna tell her?
I'm just hearing about this now.
Listen to Call Your Grandmother on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I've got one word for you. Tom Cruise. On this new weekly podcast, Meeting Tom Cruise, we're going to talk about Tom Cruise.
Everyone who's met him has an amazing story to tell.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeff Dietrich from TV's Blackish.
I'm Joel Johnston from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
We are inspired by Tom Cruise.
But we've never actually met Tom Cruise.
But after we talk to some people who have, maybe we finally will. It's not impossible.
Listen to Meeting Tom Cruise on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.